He did 337 consecutive days, found just over 10,000 geocaches themselves.
Wow.
34 states he completed and did 1,522 new counties. So this averaged 4.5 counties each day. Wow.
Do you love to travel?
Do you love road trips?
Do you love finding hidden treasures in towns all over the USA? Hi, I'm Joshua.
And I'm Craig. Welcome to Treasures of Our Town. It's the podcast that explores the unique and charming towns scattered throughout the United States.
Join us as we venture to some of the country's most intriguing destinations, uncovering hidden gems and local secrets along the way.
On today's episode, Josh, we're going to talk to someone that has visited every county in the USA.
What?
Not state.
What?
County as well. So, we're going to chat with Magplanner throughout today's episode, mate.
He has found every hidden treasure there is to find
yes.
in our United States of America. How appropriate of a guest for this show is this guy, Nick. I'm so excited to talk to him. I've seen him and heard him on several other podcasts, and I'm excited that he's on our podcast to talk about the travel aspect of it.
Yes.
Because he is, dare I say, avid geocacher.
He is extremely
extreme
geocacher. However, we'll try and guide him, Josh, a little bit away from the types of things he found, etc., and go more about the places he's been.
I love that.
How he's went to these places as well, where he stayed. His travel itself, his travel companions, even down. Josh, I put there as well in one of the show notes, even down to like the food he ate and how he budgeted for the whole trip as well. So that's pretty cool.
I wonder if he found some thrown rolls on his journey.
Oh, we haven't put that in the show notes, but keep that in mind. I'll give you the hot tip right there. I'm not sure. Mate, let's get on to the delays and upgrades for you and I, shall we?
Yes.
What do you think?
Well, my upgrade and my delay are connected. Today, the day that we were recording this, I have a midweek day off. Midweek day off. We're recording this on June 19th, which is Juneteenth, which is a national holiday. And my company has the whole day off. So I'm home hanging out with you, recording the podcast. Yeah. And it's great. But my delay is that I've used this day so far to clean bathrooms. So
bathrooms, that means you got more than one in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that was kind of a delay.
Especially when you got they're not teenagers anymore; they're actually adults. So you've got like 5 adults now in the household.
Well, they should all clean their own bathrooms.
They don't, do they? So,
so that's my delay and my upgrade. How about you,
mate? I'll start with my delay first. Guess what? More car trouble. That's right, more car. Another $1,500 worth of car trouble.
Craig, are you considering getting rid of this thing?
Well, I was, Josh, but now I'm so invested in it now. Like I'm deep into it now. I'm like, well, why bother getting it all fixed up just to sell it for less than what I've paid for it so far?
That's tough.
And then not get the pleasure out of the next few years having no traumas with it. So we'll see.
That makes sense. Bummer.
Yeah.
That's a bummer. Yeah. Expensive delay too.
Yes. Yeah. one of which as well was the so-called repair that I got done in Arizona that had to be replaced again now since I've moved back. So that was another big part of the actual payment itself as well. But my upgrade made up for it, Josh, because last weekend I travel up to north of New Jersey area, like near Newark, New Brunswick area, on the Friday. Stayed overnight there as well because obviously playing a lot of Munsey around that sort of area. But there was a big New Jersey mega, and it was the last one of their 10-year mega that they've hosted there at New Brunswick on the weekend on Saturday. So we were up there for that. Met up with a lot of friends, Josh. A lot of people that I've only met a few of them, face to face here and there. Social media, mind you, you talk to people on social media all the time, but actually meeting them face to face and getting that physical hug and that connection with people. That's what you really miss when it comes to just connecting on social media as opposed to in real life. So there you go. That's my upgrade.
That looked like so much fun. And when I say looked like so much fun, I saw the video you posted last night.
Are we promoting my videos again? This is the second episode in a row that we got my video.
This is an audio only podcast, but is this podcast a supplement to our videos, or are the videos a supplement to our podcast? I don't know, but great video as per usual.
Thank you, mate.
Especially capturing the sights and sound of mega events and those that are in the creation business, the geocaching video creation business. We know how challenging it can be to cover a mega event because some of them there's some very similar aspects of them. But you did a great job as usual. Loving that 360 camera. Looks like a drone sometimes. I love that.
I know. Well, it's going to get even better, Josh, because I got myself some new gear for it too this week. I got myself I'm trying to think how many foot it is. It's over 3 meter pole for it. So I think that's 3 meters. I think that's roughly around the 12-foot mark. So it's a 12-foot pole for it. So it's going to look even more drone-like. It's going to get higher than what it gets at the moment with the current setup. But I did that video, Josh, just with the 360 as well.
Yeah.
No extra audio, no microphones on. It was all through the actual camera itself. And I think it held up really, really well. I was very happy with it. So, and it's one of those cameras where it's small enough so it's not intrusive. So I can be filming, like I was filming the dogs, Josh. There's lots of dogs there. I love the geopups. Speaking of which, you've got Goliath with you today. Filming the geopups near the ground, and it looks like I'm just walking by. You know what I mean? You can't see, as opposed to the big cameras that are, I'm used to with you, where you can look and you have to frame it as you go. And it's a lot easier with this little 360 camera. I'll give you the tip there.
Well,
so yeah,
it's awesome. And speaking of video creation, geo video creation and dogs. Our guest Nick Magplanner is with us to talk about his year-long journey across the United States, visiting every single county. An amazing, amazing feat, and I'm excited to chat with him. Let's bring him in. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me today.
Wow, Josh, I feel very privileged.
So excited.
Mate. Yeah, I feel very privileged actually seeing Nick as well. Like he's sitting back now, he's relaxed, he's done his whole trip, and we're going to deep dive, Josh. We're going to deep dive into some statistics in regards to the way he traveled, how he traveled, etc. as well. So, Nick, mate, firstly, you want to introduce yourself? Your full name, or not your full name, but how you got Magplanner as your geocaching name, etc., and go from there, mate. Go for it.
All right. I started geocaching in 2010. I had just left active duty and gone on to the private side as a contractor for the Marine Corps. I linked up with a major, and we went on our first project, Bahrain. We had some downtime, and she asked me, "Do you want to go find a geocache?" A geo what? It'll be fine. Come on, let's go do it. And so we go exploring the streets of Bahrain. We end up under the Pearl Bridge, and we find this little container. And I honestly, I didn't think much of it at the time. We had our names to the log, and so be it. It wasn't until I logged that first geocache and I saw that smiley face appear on the map, I was like, I really like the way that looks. I'm gonna see if I can add some more smiley faces to my map. And here we are.
And Magplanner, mate, MAG Planner. What does that stand for? How'd you get Magplanner?
So my geocaching name is MagTAF Planner. That's MAGTF Planner. It stands for Marine Air Ground Task Force Planner. When I was active duty, that was my military occupational specialty. And when I was transitioning out of the Marine Corps, it just kind of made sense that I would make that my geocaching name when we were out in Bahrain. And I liked it and stuck with it. And then I've really just been MagTAF Planner until I began this channel. And I decided to take the TF out of there so I'd lose that Marine Corps association. It becomes my own. For me, Marine Air Ground is on the sea, in the air, on the land. I think it works very well for what I do because on this trip, well, we've done all three of those too. On day 30, I jumped out of an airplane, so I definitely put the air in Magplanner that day too.
So, Nick, high level here, because we have a lot of details to get through about this amazing journey. what inspired you to do this? This is quite a feat that you have accomplished.
Yep.
To visit, let alone find a geocache in every single county in the United States. What made you want to do this? What inspired you?
Well, like anything else, there's a lot of contributing factors that went into it. And I could break down a bunch of those. But what it comes down to, the main factor, I just wanted some time with my dog. I wanted to be able to show her off on camera. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do the video series so I could show the rest of the world how amazing my dog is. And I really thought she was at the end of her time. When we started on the road, she was physically, she wasn't walking around very well anymore. Her mind was starting to slip. And all the dog has ever wanted and all the time we've been together is just to be there with me. And I've always been gone, traveling around the country, overseas, whatever the case may be, a lot of that for work. And now's the time. If I don't give her that time now, I'm not going to have it. So I put her in the car and I started the series, and an amazing thing happened when we were on the road. She physically got better. She shaved years off as far as her ability to move, and her mind cleared up.
Wow.
And she didn't have any episodes at all the entire time we were on the road. And she has, since we've been stopped and we've been doing things, she's been starting to slip again. But in the entire time we were on the road, not a single time did she have an episode. So I'm grateful that I did it.
What's her name, mate? And how old is she? What sort of dog is she?
Her name's Aichan. Mm-hmm. She's an Australian cattle herder, Basenji mix. She's 16 years old now.
Wow.
We adopted her as a rescue at about a year and a half. We got her out of the shelter, and you could tell she had some abuse in her past. Mm. She had a lot of fears, especially when it came to metal objects. She wanted nothing to do with anything that was made out of metal, which living on the second floor in an apartment building with a metal staircase made it pretty interesting first year. But we were able to train her through the bags that she carried. And then we were able to train her to, I say we trained her. Let's be honest here. The dog trained us.
Yeah.
Every time I tried to teach her a command, you could tell she was trying to figure out what I wanted. And then she would meet me halfway. And it was easy as could be to get her to do everything. And then she made the perfect road buddy for the last 14 years.
Wow.
And it's amazing to, just like humans, you give a little fresh air, daily exercise, exploring new places, mm-hmm. new smells, mm-hmm. especially for Aichan, and the health just increases, which is just another testament to this trip mm-hmm. and just travel in general, to change your environment, explore new things. It is great for mental and physical health. And it seems like it was very true for your dog.
I met a couple of 90-year-old geocachers in Arizona, and I asked, why are you out here geocaching? And the lady goes, because it keeps me moving.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
Love it. Josh, we just quickly do some stats before we move on as well. I'll say this. So, Nick, you went from the 1st of July in 2023 and you ended the 1st of June 2024. So it's pretty much like 11 months. He did 337 consecutive days, found just over 10,000 geocaches themselves.
Wow.
34 states he completed and did 1,522 new counties. So this averaged 4.5 counties each day. Wow.
Just think about the 10,000. That's amazing. That's a lot of geocaches. Yeah. And just imagine all the geocaches that Nick just drove by.
Oh yeah. There's still so many.
Just waved to them.
Exactly.
So many. Exactly. Probably more than 10,000. Certainly.
And those 10,000 geocaches, none of that's power runs. The only time I ever touched them is if it happened across the county or page I needed. I'd go get 2 or 3 out of the run, and then I'd move on.
Yes.
So those are legitimate finds out in the terrain. Yep. Moving those miles.
None of the ET highway, Josh. None of that is ET highway business.
Maybe he did a few.
Although I did the ET highway twice, but not this trip.
Oh, okay. That's a different trip. And I've watched many of your videos, and I'm just really impressed. And because this is how I geocache, is I really go after quality. Mm-hmm. So it seemed to me that when you got into that county, you were like, I'm going for old ones. I'm going for quality finds. I'm going for interesting places, which kudos to you for not having it be just about the geocaching, but about the places that you decided to visit.
That's what geocaching has always been for me. I've considered it a local tour of an area, and I see it as a great way to get out and see some of the places that you're not going to find on the tourist brochure. And it has brought me to just the most amazing spots. And that's what I tried to do with my geocache plan. And Admittedly, there were lamb skirts in there when it was just the best option to move through. But if there was something better, it was happening.
You're forgiven, Nick. You're forgiven.
Absolutely. One more stat, Josh, before we move on as well. Miles covered was just over 100,000 miles.
Wow.
How does your car, like what sort of vehicle did you have, Nick, as well? Because we're talking 100,000 miles on a car in 1 year is just insane. Let's be honest.
I own a Mazda CX-9, and it was a big part of my planning of having that car because if I were staying in hotels every night, it would have broke the bank. It wasn't going to happen. So I worked with a friend of mine, and we tore the second and third row seatings out. They're up in his attic right now. And he helped me build a base frame into the car so that I'd have a lower storage unit and made it flat completely behind the passenger on the driver's seat all the way through the car to the back. And then we were able to put bins across the back of one side, plastic tote bins. So I could have 8 of them on one side of the car, and the other side of the car was kept clear so that I'd have about 6 feet of room to lay down at night. Initially, I thought my dog was going to sleep in the passenger seat in her dog bed. That lasted exactly one night. We cuddled every night after that.
Very good, mate. Very good. I know myself. I've done a similar sort of thing with my Ford Explorer as well. I've got a Ford Explorer, and I ripped out all the back seating. I've got nice level out now as well, and it's a beautiful place to sleep. And you nest. I call it nesting when you go to your location where you literally park it up, Josh, as well, and you close up everything in you're just in there in the back, and no one even knows you're there. I mean, Nick, how many nights did you actually sort of sleep on the road in comparison to hotels or stays like that?
So I actually had I have a lot of stats I've been working on over the last week, so I know the exact numbers here.
He's a planner.
So I stayed 93 of those nights indoors.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of those nights were with beds. There were a lot of times where it was like I was given a space to sleep in. I could roll out my bed mat and I could sleep there with the dog. And I spent 244 nights in the car. So 72% of my time was in the car and the rest was sleeping indoors. Most of that was hotel time with friends because 2 of us sleeping in my car, not going to work so well. And then I did hotels 26 times by myself, and 19 of those were because of the dog.
Wow.
So when you slept in your car, where were your typical locations where you slept?
That was something that I kind of had to work with every single night. I definitely went for Walmart parking lots. In these small towns, that works very well. The bigger the city, the less likely they're going to accommodate that because people are trying to permanently camp and live in the parking lots, so they're really cracking down on it. Rest areas, unfortunately, almost never happened for me because in my other trips around the country, we were trying to get to specific places, the Capitol buildings, Cache Across Americas, and we used the interstates. So almost the entire time I was on the road, I was never on an interstate. I'd cross it. If it ran east to west, I'd cross it north to south, never see that rest area. We did a lot of wayside rests. Wisconsin was my favorite for that. They have wayside rests across the entire state that you're just able to park in any single one of them and go to sleep and stay there as long as you need to and get back on the road. And then you've got states that, like California, all the rest areas are, you're in and out 8 hours. That's all you got. And a lot of those are very heavily managed.
Wow. We have a lot more very detailed questions. I'm going to ask you another sort of high level question. And if you're following the show notes, we might go a little out of order, Nick. So, so here's the thing. After seeing the whole country, this is kind of my number one question. This is what I want to know. After seeing the whole country, what new perspectives do you have on our country, on the people that live here? Was there anything about it that changed in your mind? What is your high level like when you think about our country after seeing all of it? Do you have any insights for us? Because very few people have ever experienced all of our country. I want to know that answer.
So I think a lot of people have this perception of the country based on the cities because that's what we see the most of. But if you look at the bigger footprint, it's just they represent such a small space on the map compared to these vast open landscapes we have in places like Montana, Wyoming, Utah. I mean, when we got up to the top of the Grand Staircase Escalante, that was it. It was just us out there. And I had views for miles and miles, and I saw nothing that resembled human civilization. It's a beautiful country that we have. And I absolutely encourage people, if they have the opportunity, to get out there away from the city a little bit and go explore some of those places that, aren't as heavily traversed, and find some of those natural treasures, because they're there waiting to be discovered.
That is really insightful, because I didn't really think about that. A lot of, in the world of geocaching, a lot of our geocaches are centered around city areas or suburban areas. And the nature of this trip, by visiting every county, most of the places that you were out of the city. There were rural places. So that's really incredible insight, that we have a lot of space. It's a big country.
And it really doesn't matter what state you're in. There's something to explore nearby. There's some kind of natural treasure hidden not too far away. You just have to figure out where that is.
Exactly. And Josh, I know myself, because I've done a bit of travel around, like car travel around this year particularly. And Nick, how, when it comes to your planning, you are a big planner, I can see that, and that's all well and good, but you had to go off like on the fly sometimes in regards to on a daily basis. I mean, here you are, you're finding a cache in every single county itself. So there's a plan. You know the plan. You know where to go your route. But obviously things can happen. You got video to do, video to edit, for instance, as well, stuff like that too. So where did you have your stays actually planned out themselves, or did you go off on the fly most of the nights?
So I've never been in the habit of planning my stays. That's one part where Skeletor 10 and I kind of butted heads, because he plans his geocaching trip around the hotels. We're getting to that hotel tonight, even if it's 3 a.m. For me, I'm like, hey, we're going to stop and make up the time later. So when I broke down my days through the plan, I broke them down at points where it looked like I'd have an opportunity for rest, coming into a big city where there'd probably be places, or if I knew a geocache was at an interstate, I'd line that out as my day break for that part of the plan. So at least I knew I was coming up toward a rest area there. But any plan requires the ability to be flexible. Any good plan, anyway, requires the ability to be flexible. If you're too rigid on your plan, you are setting yourself up for failure. So I built cushion into my plan specifically to be able to accommodate changes that happen along the way. Every 2 weeks, I had an admin day built in, where the day was set aside for me to do video editing, catch up. I knew that if I had laundry, I could cut into that admin day, and I could catch up from there. And then the other thing that I did is I put parts in my plan where I would have just a day to play around the city. I'd have a day in Boston. I'd have, whatever the case may be. If there was good looking geocaches and it was enough time consuming stuff, I would just say, hey, that day. And if I was there on time, I could go and play that day, and I could just hang out in that area and enjoy the caches. And if I was behind time, that was a day that I could easily cut into and get myself back on track. And that allowed me to keep my schedule very consistent. I was within a day or two every single day right up until April, and then I had to change the whole entire thing.
That's a great tip right there, Josh, as well, for anyone out there who's looking at doing some. Even Josh, you don't have to be doing like a whole year of travel here. We're talking about, even if you wanted just to go up and do a weekend escape somewhere and you're driving somewhere, have plans in place, but be flexible. I think that's a great tip for any traveler out there.
Planning margin in your trip, especially a trip like this. I mean, we're talking a year. This is a marathon. This is a marathon of travel. And if you don't plan rest or a little bit of flexibility, I'm not sure you're going to make it. You're going to get burnt out. And I'm sure there are times, that's Nick, were there times where you felt burnt out by this trip? Not that you were going to necessarily give up, but you're just like, wow, I need to take a breather. Or were there times where you're like, I'm getting a little burnt out?
So early on in the trip, once I'd gotten through Michigan and I'd stayed with my friend Truex Outdoors, the entire stretch from there between Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, and Illinois, I had no meetups planned with anybody. I was just me and the dog alone on the road. We did have one day where we met a geocacher, and we geocached with him all day, and I was so grateful for that. But by the time I got to the end of that period where it was just me and the dog, and I finally met another one of my friends, I was tired, and having that human interaction for just a couple of days gave me the boost I needed to, okay, I got this. I can do this.
That's
the real burnout. The real burnout came in April. My dog got sick. and she stopped eating. She wouldn't take any food for about a week. She stopped moving. I would have to pick her up and set her outside the car, and she'd just kind of squat in position to use the bathroom. And then I'd pick her back up and put her back in. She wouldn't do anything else. And I'd gone to the doctor. We ran every test on her. It all came back, hey, your dog's perfectly healthy. So they gave me a Hail Mary of medicine. I was administering stuff every 2 to 3 hours. And I was at the point of just giving up on the video series. I couldn't do it anymore. And then she started bouncing back. And as she bounced back, my motivation came back with her. But I came dangerously close to quitting there when she was on the ropes.
And rightfully so. Rightfully so.
It's just amazing the amount of time you spend with a dog. For people that are dog owners, you're just connected. So I'm sure your spirit was very just like connected with Aichan, and when she wasn't doing well, you weren't doing well, which is that's no surprise at all. Tell me some of the. I'm sure you ran into strangers and you talked to strangers. You talk about human interaction a lot, and I've done some solo travel, and I've gone lengths of time without talking to a human being, where I'm not naturally the kind of guy that shoots the breeze with the gas station attendant person, but it's just like there is this human need for interaction with strangers or anybody when you've been alone for a while. And so can you think of one stranger that you met that you really connected with, or like that surprised you, or they helped you, or anybody come to mind?
Gosh, I met tons of people on the road, and some people just want to talk, and if they want to talk, I listened, and that sometimes that's all somebody needs, is somebody to listen. There was one guy that I met, it was fairly recently. It was a trucker, Carlos, and he's actually in one of my videos, and he's on his own on the road, and he's just enjoying the sights. And I was at the same spot, and we started talking. I told him about geocaching, and he gave me the geo what? And like, well, there's one about a quarter mile away. You want to go find it? And so off we go into the desert. And he's just as happy as could be to find that geocache. And I just have this suspicion that I helped to create a geocacher that's going to be killing that county map very shortly here.
Yeah, especially if he's a trucker. He's like, he's looking at the map. Whoa, there's a lot on my route.
And
absolutely,
and truck stops especially. I mean, unlike yourself, mate, when in my travels, I did do a lot of interstate travels, and so I did do a lot of rest stops, etc. as well. And so same thing happens though. You get to a rest stop, Josh, and you get out of the car, and it's an excuse to get out and actually walk around the rest stop, to find the one or two caches that are in the rest stop itself, and then grab all the munsies that are around there too, that sort of thing too. So, for me, that's what it was all about. But it's funny, Nick, you were saying that you got what do you call it? Like you got solace, etc. in talking to people. I have the opposite, Josh. Believe it or not, when I actually don't have anyone around me, that's when I reinvigorate myself. Then when I'm by myself, driving and caching and doing other things as well and traveling, that's when I actually invigorate myself, is when I'm by myself. So
and I'm sure anybody that chooses to do this, there's a certain amount of introversion in them that they're comfortable being alone or with a dog for an extended period of time. So.
And I definitely agree with you. For a week, 2 weeks being alone, it's invigorating. A month, 2 months, you need a little bit.
I'm sure.
And that's where the dog though is very, very handy as such as well. You start talking to the dog like it's another human being, and I mean, to be honest though, they are more human than what we are. But anyway, Nick, as well, when Josh was saying about how many people you sort of spoke to, etc., I find myself that when you talk to people and you explain to them, they always say, where are you from? What are you doing? That sort of thing. And you explain what you're doing. How many people out there, Nick, say these exact words? And that is, you're living the life. You've got the life. I want to do that. How many people out there were saying the same sort of thing, mate?
I actually didn't get that as much. I've gotten that on other trips. On this trip, when I would tell them I'm traveling through every county in the country, they would more lean toward, you're crazy.
And you are kind of crazy in a really, really cool way.
Yeah.
A lot of people they didn't understand. I mean, you're going through every state? No, I'm going through every county.
Yeah.
Like all those little tiny boxes within the states?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
There are some people out there as well that don't actually know about counties too much, let's be honest, right. Unless there's a reason for them, like, our lovely game of geocaching. So I can see when you say, people understand going through every state. People go, oh, yeah, that's really cool going through it. But when you narrow it down even further like you do, Nick, that's insane.
And I don't even tell people about the DeLorme pages because that's a whole nother layer of an onion to peel back that even a lot of geocachers don't quite understand.
Speaking of navigating through the counties, some states, to me, it seems like really makes sense. Like Iowa is south of here, so it's like they're all kind of just like lined up in little boxes. As you're navigating through like a state like that, are you literally just going like, I'm making you can't see the video, but I'm going back and forth with my finger, like turn around, go, or
like lapping,
taking laps like around a pool. How did you?
So what you just described, where you did the zigzag back and forth, that's actually pretty much what my Iowa map looks like, and my Michigan map as well. But I did it based on what was logical for my routing, because I was starting in the north in New York, and I was staying north as long as possible until it started to get cold, and then I would drop south. So that master route first dictated how I was going to approach the states. And then within those states, it was... For example, there's two geocaches that look like they're really close. There's a canyon between them. That's 60 miles, what looks like it's an 8-mile drive. So there's a lot of zigzagging and out and back and weird places because it was the only logical way to access these locations. And I tried to optimize my routing entirely through the states. So again, states like Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, those ones that have more of the boxy counties like that, it kind of resembles that because the roads follow those. But when you get into some of the weirder states like Colorado, for example, you've got to circle around and do a lot of stuff with the terrain there to get where you need to go.
Wow. It sounds challenging. It sounds like it takes a lot of planning. Yes. Good thing your name's Magplanner. What were some of the surprising moments that you had that you're like, wow, I can't believe that happened, or maybe it's a snafu, or I'm curious to have you talk about the unplanned things that happened.
Well, issue wise, in Idaho, I blew a tire on a mountain road. It was this, I think the sign said no stopping the next 15 miles. Risk of rock slides and avalanche, right? And so I'm driving through the roads. There's snow piled on top of the rocks along the edges of the roads, and I'm coming around this mountain bend, and there's a big rock on the road. And I have two choices. I can either hit the rock, or I can veer into the opposite lane of traffic along this windy mountain road and hope that's not the moment that a car is coming the other direction. I wasn't willing to take that risk. I hit the rock. So then, I managed to wrestle the car, and I get it to a safe spot, and there I am, changing my tire under a just straight slope filled with rocks and snow. Going, this is it. This is going to be the moment.
Wow.
But somehow, some way, we managed to pull it out. And we had another incident like that in Nebraska near our last day. And that was, there's so many good people out there. I'm in the middle of nowhere on these back farm roads. The tire's blowing. I'm out there changing it. And these guys pull up. We're talking, it's like 1 a.m. They pull up in their truck, and I'm torn between continuing to change my tire and stand there and defend myself.
1 a.m. Yikes.
But they were legitimately there to help me. And once I got the tire off and I get the new one on, I'm getting ready to do it. And the guy's like, I got this. And he pulls a tool out of his truck and the tire's back on. And I was able to get to the shop. They pointed me to down the road. And first thing in the morning, they came in. I was sleeping in my car, woke up and changed my tire. I was out of there within an hour from the time they woke up.
When you first started saying that story, all I thought to myself was that NCIS, sort of the beginning of any sort of NCIS episode where that sort of happens, and that person who's changing the tires never seen again. It happens a lot in the good old US of A, let's be honest. But yeah, there are lots of good people out there, mate. Absolutely. What I was going to say is talking about the low stuff, because some things like that happen, and at the time you go, "Oh no, I can't believe this is happening to me." It's a low in your travels, but then something good can happen out of it. And it's a long-term memory for you now as well, that you've actually met these lovely people out there who helped you out, et cetera, as well. You didn't die from an avalanche or rockfall, so that's all good. So what other things out there that you can remember that kind of maybe started as a low or whatever, but they're just memories now in your brain, mate?
Oh, that one's really easy. So me and Mom came in and joined me, and we were trying to cross across the mountains of California, the Sierra Nevadas, and I was trying to take the easiest pass to get over to where we needed to go. It was north of Fresno. The road was closed. So I then either had two options: take a mountain road or take what amounted to like an 8-hour detour. So we went for the mountain road. And it continued to get sketchier and sketchier. Yikes. And it turned into, like, we were just clearing the pass at the top of the mountain. I'm assessing the situation. I go, we need to turn around. If I go further, this is going to be it. I can sense it. So we did. We turned around. We went around. We took the huge detour I tried to avoid, and we ended up making it. And to add insult to injury, that day was the only day that the motion stability on my camera decided to stop working. So I have all of this footage of us bumping and jostling along these mountain roads. And already, if you don't have motion stability on your camera, even with normal shots, it's bad. My shots were horrendous. Yeah. So I didn't even sleep that night. When I discovered what had happened, by the way, I learned new editing techniques that night. I spent all night getting motion correction on that footage, and really the video turned out phenomenally well. And I won't forget, number one, how much fun we had trying to get over those mountains. And number two, just how great it felt to be able to take what was some of the most awful footage I've ever shot and salvage it and turn it into a really good video.
Speaking of video, we're gonna talk about this because it's one thing to visit every state. It's another thing to visit every county. It's another thing to make a video a full size. We're not talking shorts. We're not talking shorts. Although there were probably some shorts in there.
Only my dog.
Yes. Making a full YouTube video almost every day of this adventure. What was your reason for wanting to document the whole thing? What was your experience? Was it challenging? I believe it. I would assume yes, because as we're all video creators in this podcast here. Tell us a little bit about that and the reason you did it and the challenges, and talk about that a little bit.
So, shy of my selfish reasons of wanting to get my dog on camera, my kids were at the age that they were watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I myself, I'm actually not a real media consumer, but I kind of wanted to do something that they could see the states the way I do and see what I do, because I've been doing this for years, since before either one of them was born. And they went with me on adventures when they were young. They've been kayaking and hiking in the backpack and stuff. But as they got older, old enough to remember these things, they didn't want to do it anymore. So I figured I could at least show them the high points and all the great things our country had, and I could do it in a way that would relate to them. And something that'll stick around, 10, 20 years from now, they can still look back and see these things. And when I got the idea and I decided I was going to do that, it's important to note, I've never, ever edited videos before. I did a lot of research, got all the equipment I needed, discovered my laptop was incapable of processing 4K videos. I could have shot in 1080p. I wanted good footage. I wanted something that was crystal clear and that I could work with. And so I decided I was going to make that happen. I got a better computer that could handle what I was trying to do. And then I learned on the fly. I would say to anybody who gets out there and watches my series, cut me a little slack for the first 30 days. I was truly learning, and every part of that was a learning process. How I wanted to shoot my clips, narrating over the top of them, how to put together the videos. Oh, my personality was awful in those first 30 videos. I talked like a robot as I was narrating. But as I progressed through that, because we all have to start somewhere. Yeah. Mm-hmm. As I progressed through that, I learned how I like to make my shots, because I always try and have them in motion. Mm-hmm. I don't like the still shots. I have those in my intros and conclusions when I'm showing maps and stuff, but the rest of my videos there's always motion and action going on. And then I learned that it helps from, I wasn't ever really intending to be on camera. My intention was always to have my dog on camera all the time. But I know that you have to be on camera sometimes if you're going to be doing YouTube videos. And I also learned that those times where I pop into camera and say something or show something, those really help me to make transitions to the next place I'm going. So I tried to shoot several of those a day just so I'd have them to insert throughout the clips. As I got better at my video editing techniques, I was able to process clips faster and put them together faster. And so I started going longer on my content. My first videos were only 5-7 minutes each, because that's all I could possibly process in a day. And as I got better at it, I pushed my footage up to about 12 minutes standard. And then beyond that, anything else was too much for me to edit and process and move within a day. And I like the consistency of it. And I think I ended up getting pretty good, not only with the shots I was doing and the editing, but also giving personality to what I was doing.
Yeah.
And there's no better way to get better at something than doing it.
Exactly.
Just like anything, practice. And I really enjoyed the journey. I haven't been able to catch all of them, but the cool thing, I can go back.
Yeah.
I did, in preparation for this interview, I did go back to your first video in Central Park because I had done that cache before. And you're giving
I watched your video.
You're giving yourself not enough credit. You were just fine in that first video, but we see the progression. It's just amazing.
And Josh, that's one of the things I do love about following video creators out there as well. And this is any sort of video creator, not just necessarily travel creations, but you follow them from the start or when they first start, and you see how, like, you've got your one up there still, Josh. So your very first one that you did at the light pole under the snow. But it's good to see the progression and to watch the progression, and you see the personality start to come through. All the way itself as well. And yeah, mate, I've actually watched a few of yours in preparation for today too, and I did the same thing. I watched like one or two over the first, a couple in the middle, and then a couple at the end. And mate, your progression is it's quality progression. Like, it's good to see from a viewer's standpoint, to see someone really start to relax on camera. You start to see who they are, what they're about, their love for their dog, for instance, as well. That all comes through, and it's not just about finding a cache. It's not just about the journey. And to me, it's more about, how you go about your day, and the things that you do during the day. And as I said before, I do love overcoming these obstacles that you do, mate, every single day too, just saying that. So yeah, well done, mate. Well done.
And as of this recording, he's 26 subscribers away from 1,000 subscribers.
Come on, guys.
And so by the time this publishes, I'm sure he's going to be over the 1,000. But if you're listening to this, find Magplanner's YouTube channel. I'm sure if you just search Magplanner, you'll find it.
Josh, links in the description.
Of course, the links will be in the description. But it's really, I love following creators. This is like the hero's journey. Like to it's more than just one video. It's almost cathartic to just watch a person progress over a whole year, experiencing life for a whole year, especially with our amazing hobby of geocaching. So check it out.
Yeah.
Now, Nick, we are big fans here on the Treasures of Our Town podcast. Well, I'll speak for myself. I'm a big fan of roadside attractions.
I knew you were going here, Josh. I knew you.
Nick, I don't know if you heard, in March, we had roadside attraction March Madness, where we put roadside attractions in competition with other roadside attractions. So go back to that episode. But you had to run in, when you're in these little small towns or rural communities off the beaten path, you've had to run into some of these like really interesting or funny or quirky roadside attractions. Any of those stick out to you?
Oh yeah. So first of all, Josh, I'm right there with you. I love those roadside attractions.
Yes.
Including and maybe even especially the ones where people are like, oh, that's so corny. Oh, I'm all over it. And so I that was a lot of my research too, is finding all of those. Even if there wasn't a geocache at them, the world's largest ball of twine does have one. But if there's a world's largest somewhere that didn't have a geocache, but I knew it was on the map, it was on the list if I was going near it. And I've seen countless of those in my travels, but there's probably a few that I think would be really good to highlight above some of the others, some of these small towns out there that will just really impress you. Very top of my list was Taylor, Nebraska. I would never have known is there on a map. I want to say the population's double digits. If it's triple, it's barely pushing it.
Oh, wow.
But yet you come into this town and you feel like it's a bustling town because there's people everywhere shopping at the windows.
Okay.
They're saluting the flags. They're heading to church. They're grocery shopping. They're playing in the park. And all of them are plywood cutouts.
Oh.
This town has over 200 plywood cutouts of people doing activities all around the town. And when I got there and I saw it, I just immediately, first I had to get out some napkins and wipe the drool because, I got to be on camera. But after that, I couldn't help myself. I spent so long in that town hunting down as many of those people as I could. It was just so cool.
Did they have names? Did they have names? Or do you?
I'm willing to bet, but they weren't posted in a way that you could see. But I'm willing to bet every single one of them had a name.
You know what that reminds me of? This is going to be a deep cut, and I don't know if you've seen it, but Steve Martin in the 80s had a movie called The Lonely Guy. No. It was all about being a lonely guy. Like he didn't have any friends. And so one of his lonely guy friends, there's the irony, right? Mm-hmm. He had a friend said, you got to get some of these cardboard cutouts. So he filled his apartment with like cardboard cutouts of like celebrities and stuff. And that's how he had parties by himself with these cardboard cutouts. It kind of makes me wonder if in Taylor, Nebraska, the mayor was a lonely guy.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I
thought you were going. One thing I do know for sure, Craig, though, is that mayor is probably proud of his town.
Oh, geez.
It's a rare thing these days.
Yeah, there's another roadside attraction I wanted to touch on, but it wasn't one town.
Okay.
So I love patriotic displays.
Yes.
I will not pass up a veterans memorial in a town. Mm-hmm. I love seeing the walls filled with names because it's a way to help keep their memory alive for what they've done. And they have this project it's completed now, but it's been years in the making. In Iowa, it's called the Freedom Rocks. And within every county in Iowa, there is a large rock. It's almost always large erratic. And there's an artist that went from county to county, and he painted each rock with patriotic imagery completely around it. And it wasn't random patriotic imagery. It was pulled from history of the town, county, things like that. And so a lot of them have geocaches at or nearby. But once I figured out this was a thing, I started looking across the map and adding a layer to my plan. If I was anywhere within range of those Freedom Rocks, I was deviating just to go find it and catch some shots of it because I absolutely fell in love with them.
Josh, we did have this on one of our podcast episodes last year it was, and I do believe it was Dale and Barb when we had them on the show as well, and then Dale brought this up about the Freedom Rocks too. They are we did some research ourselves later on, mate. They look fantastic, Nick. I'll be honest with you, and well done for looking them out for them.
You know who else brought it up was Olio in Iowa.
It was too.
Our Iowa expert.
Yes.
We had 2 episodes about Iowa. Again, I was born in Iowa. I'm proud of my state. But there's a lot to see if you just get out. Just get out and explore it. Mm-hmm. Another thing you mentioned was let's stay in Iowa. You visited Riverside, Iowa, which I'm so glad you did.
Beam me up.
Yeah. Are you a Trekkie? Are you a Trekkie, Nick?
I'm actually more on the Star Wars side of it. Okay. I had met George Lucas at one point. That's a whole different story. It's not a good story.
Oh. Okay.
But I've always particularly been a fan of Star Trek with Captain Picard. He was always my favorite ship's captain. And so when COVID happened and we were all locked up inside, I got the entire thing and watched end to end every single episode. And so maybe now I'm more of a Trekkie than I was. I absolutely love the series. But of course, I'd seen all the originals too. So coming into Riverside and seeing Captain Kirk and Spock and the original Enterprise and everything in that town, it was another place I could not leave. I was almost stuck there.
For everyone else, Josh, like myself,
yes.
Who aren't really Trek fans and whatever else, what do you see at Riverside, Iowa?
It's the future birthplace of Captain T. Kirk.
Oh, is this the place?
Yes.
Oh,
yes. Megan talked about it as well.
Yeah.
And there's of course a great geocache is a statue. There's a little like gravestone marker of the actual, and I guess he was conceived on the pool table of one of the bars.
What's the one? That's the one.
So the entire concept of Riverside came about by one Trekkie. He was a member of the city council, and he went to the other city council members. And I've tried to picture myself in this room when he's standing in front of the city council, and he goes, "I have an idea for our town. Let's make it all Star Trek themed." I can only imagine what the room looked like in that moment, but they rolled with it, and it turned into something amazing. But man, that must have been a conversation.
It is a great tourism sort of hook, Josh. Especially we know everyone knows a Trekkie fan of some degree. So massive. That's a massive tourism hook.
Yeah, and it is canon. It is in. I believe I know it's in Star Trek 4 where he mentions he was from Iowa. But they never specified like what town. So I'm sure Riverside was like, it's us.
It's us. We're
us. We're the ones. This is where he was born.
It's exactly how it happened.
Okay. So you've seen so many amazing landscapes, I'm sure, throughout the United States. Are there any geological things you saw that you were just like, wow, that is this geological feature is amazing, that sticks out for you?
I mean, countless. I could give you a list for hours on this.
Yes.
I think the one, though, that really just jumped out at me, it was the oldest physical geocache in New Mexico.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name, but I think it's Pajarito Springs. And it is down the canyon. And when I say down the canyon, I mean it's down the canyon.
Wow.
So you come up to the edge, and you just have this just amazing view down. And you're looking at the geocache on the map from what looks like the edge of the cliff, and you're thinking, this is impossible. How could somebody ever get down there? And there's a trail, so to speak. And sure enough, you can climb all the way down into that canyon. And it was the gift that didn't stop giving the entire way down, all the way to the bottom. Now, on the way up, it was dark, and I didn't get any of that view. At that point, it was terrifying. But the way down, I would not have traded that for anything.
How did Aichan do on the way up? On the way up?
Oh, she loved to climb up.
Really?
Every step of the way on the way down, she was looking at me like, "Are you sure?"
She's like, "I'm not pulling you back up, Dad. Just saying."
Once I turned around, she's like, "It's this way. Let's go. Come on, we're out of here."
Love that.
She was done.
That. Was there any other geological features that you're just like, "Wow, that was amazing"?
I don't know if I'd quite call it a geological feature, but I'm going to, because I want to talk on it.
Okay.
In Pennsylvania, they have this. There's a couple geocaches there, but it's called 1,000 Steps, and it is. First of all, they're lying to you. It's 1,043 steps.
How dare they?
For anybody out there that thinks, oh, it's only 43 extra steps, I'll tell you, when you get to step number 1,000, you notice that difference right away.
I'm sure.
But it was such an incredible hike, just going up to the top of that thing. And then once you get there and, you've survived and you get to the top, and it's that amazing view where you go, okay, maybe it was worth it. I wish those 43 steps weren't there, but this was something that was worth doing. I really enjoyed getting up there. And the dog would not hike those steps up. She refused flat out. She looked at me and she gave me that look that I know. So I put her in the backpack, and I had her on my back the entire way up to the top.
Wow, what a good dad!
Yeah. So, Nick, did you actually count the steps? Is that how you know? That was 1,043.
No, I did some research after the fact.
Oh, okay. Here I'm thinking you actually counted, mate. So
I can't count that well. Heck, I did the tunnel of light, and you only have to count to 13 alcoves, and I got to 13. I go, am I at 11? Am I at 15? I think it's a spot. Let's just look. If I couldn't keep that count to 13, I wasn't getting to 10 to 43. It wasn't going to happen.
So I'm going to go a little deeper here. So you did this. You accomplished this amazing feat. You met people. You saw amazing places. You spent some quality time with your dog. What did you learn about yourself? Was there anything that you changed? Do you have a different perspective on life? What are some of the deeper things that, and I'm sure you're still processing it, as you're wrapping things up here, but yeah, this is, what did you learn about yourself? How did you change?
Gosh, I don't think my brain is fully caught up to what I did. I definitely learned that I am capable of handling any challenge that's thrown at me. no matter what it was, for instance, when I blew tires, I didn't beat myself up. Oh no, what am I going to do? Or the one time I got my car stuck in the mud, I problem solved and figured it out. At that time, it was me. It was in the middle of nowhere. Either I figure out my problems or I'm SOL. So I go into the woods, I find a bunch of dead logs and branches, and one at a time I carry them back and I create my own ramp, and I was able to get my car out of the situation I was in and free myself. And that was the entirety of the journey, is learning that there's nothing that we are not capable of doing if we set our minds to it and we work toward it, and we don't let that voice in our head that says, oh, you're going to fail. Don't listen to that. Tell yourself, instead of, oh, it's so terrible, everything's going wrong, how can I fix this? What can I do to improve this? What's the answer? What can be done?
That's some great advice there, Nick. Some fantastic advice. And like anything, stress itself, if you stress over something, you're not going to fix it. So like you said, just don't stress. Go, okay, this has happened. How can I fix it? How can we go about doing it? So yeah, don't stress
Nick, you're
people.
A great example of living life big. I think so many people go through life just thinking, oh, they look at somebody like you and they're like, oh, that would be amazing to do. I could never do that. And they're wrong because they have such a small view of what they could accomplish in their life and what they could do, that they put themselves in a box. And I want to applaud you, Nick, for not putting yourself in a box, doing something, setting a goal, accomplishing it, and just really going for it and not living small. So I think what you did is amazing, but it also is just very inspiring to whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be, visit every county in the United States. For some people in our country, they've never left their state,
So I'm really glad that you brought up that point, because it wasn't planned this way, but it was a recurring theme that we saw throughout our journey, and that I began to talk about in certain videos. And it's that one person with an idea, a dream, a goal, and the drive to do it, they can accomplish amazing things. So many of the places that we went through, Freedom Rocks, that was one artist who went through all those counties and did that. Mock Opulence, which is a very highly favorited geocache, that is one person who put together that entire garden for people to walk through and see all these pieces of history of the town. Lake and Linland, all the metal art sculptures that you can drive through. That was one person with a dream and a goal. And he was opposed at every turn, and he still pushed forward, and now he created an amazing thing. And we saw that over and over and over again throughout our journey, is one person can make a big difference. And of course, it's great if you have a team, and it's great if you can find people to support you. But don't feel like you're not able to accomplish anything by yourself if you put your mind to it.
Well said, mate. Well said. Josh, we're about out of time, mate.
Yeah. Nick, tell the people, we mentioned your YouTube channel, but just tell the people where they can find you and follow along on whatever's next, whatever crazy thing you have lined up next. Where can people find you?
So this may be the end of our journey around the United States, but it's only the beginning of our journey around the world. Now that I've gotten a feel for doing video series and sharing my travels, I want to continue to do that and show people the many great places around this world. So we will be showing Japan. We're showing many places in Asia. Eventually, I'm going to be coming back for Alaska and Hawaii. And we'll continue touring around the world. So please go to the YouTube and subscribe at Magplanner. That's MAGPLANNER. And that way you can stay in tune for when our next journey comes, and we have some videos coming your way. I also have a website that I've set up. It's themagplanner.com. And I have a lot of supporting resources, because I want to make this fully accessible for people so they can dig deep and look in the details and see what happens. So all of the maps that I've laid out, they're all available. All of my geocache target lists, I've broken them down. Each video is linked to these two. I've broken them down by states, so you can look at how I approached each state. I have the master list, so you can look at the entire plan. The budget's on there, and every other everything is accessible to people, because I want them to be able to kind of dig down and see the detail work if they're interested in that.
Wow. He really is a planner, Josh, and well done. I'll link that too in the show notes.
Why do the planning when Nick's done it all for you already?
Exactly. He's the Magplanner. So there we go. Josh, patrons. We've got to mention patrons.
If you've been enjoying our podcast, and let's be honest, wow, this was a great one. Nick, you were such a great guest. Thank you. If you're enjoying this, we really appreciate your support. By supporting us, you help us to create even better content. Keep it free for everyone. So consider joining us at patreon.com/treasures of our town.
And Josh, how else can people contact us if they want to contact us?
Feel free to reach out to us at treasuresofourtownpodcast@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
So that's it for our show today. Please subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcasting app. And as always, Josh,
may your travels always lead you to the most unexpected and amazing hidden gems from around the world and every county in the United States. Great job, Nick. Thanks for being on.
Well done,
see
mate.
you next time.
Bye.
See you out on the trails.
Yeah.